Is that your spouse?" My body trembled with rage as Shane hissed at Kathy, "You two are flawed." "I'm all right." Kathy's voice seemed calm, but I could tell she was angry. "Let's just go home," she said. Shane gave a contemptuous sneer. A flawed individual behaving arrogantly, and turned to go. Nothing made sense to him. He was unaware that everything he said to us was a mistake that could never be fixed. I went to work as usual on the Monday following my disagreement with Shane. Shane attacked me as soon as he spotted me. "What brings you here? Why don't you and your spouse simply move into a nursing home? Will you please stop disparaging my parents?" My son Tony was the one who burst into our office. "What did you just say, Tony?" Shane's face went white. He must have been unable to talk since he was so shocked.
"Yes, my son is Tony Redford, the executive director of this company."
"I'm 64-year-old Robert Redford. I work at a company that processes food. I started working for this company 7 years ago at the age of 57. At that age, I never imagined changing occupations. I used to work for a reasonably large corporation that paid higher than most. However, I had to leave that company because of specific reasons. Kathy, my wife, suffered a spinal cord damage in an accident that left her paraplegic and confined to a wheelchair. I went to college with Kathy. Being in the same seminar led us to begin dating, and in our second year as working adults, we were married. Although I was aware that our marriage was somewhat early in comparison to others, I was adamant about marrying Kathy and wanted to move in with her right away. Our daughter was born 2 years after our marriage, and our son Tony was born 3 years later. I still regret leaving child rearing to Kathy because I worked for a job that needed frequent travel across the country. Since I was frequently traveling, we constructed our home close to Kathy's parents' house. I could never pay back Kathy's mother for all of her help with childcare and housework. Time went by. After getting married, Tony had Jake, our first grandson. Jake frequently came over to see Tony and his wife, who rented an apartment close to us. An incident happened when Jake was 2 years old and Tony's wife was ready to return from maternity leave. Tony's wife took Jake and Kathy to the hair salon that day. Kathy replied, "Why don't you take a break and relax?" She normally went to a salon with daycare. She volunteered to look after Jake. It wasn't the first time Kathy had looked after Jake, and he was very close to her. They were struck by a truck that ran a red light on their way back from the park. Jake escaped with only minor scratches after Kathy protected him, but Kathy suffered severe injuries and needed emergency surgery. The reality was tough, yet she barely made it. Due to a spinal cord injury, the doctor informed us that Kathy would require a wheelchair, be paralyzed from the waist down, and be unable to walk. I will never forget Kathy's words at that time. As she cried, she said, "I'm really glad it was me." Kathy had always been a kind person who never spoke ill of others. She was relieved that she could protect Jake and was glad it was her and not Jake's mother, who was paralyzed. For me, it was heartbreaking that Kathy would never walk again. I knew how much she loved exercising, how she jogged daily to prepare for marathons, and how it was her passion. But reality couldn't be changed, so I quit my previous job to take care of Kathy and joined my current company. Since becoming paralyzed, Kathy has often fallen ill. She quickly gets a fever or becomes anemic when she's tired. The doctor says it's due to the stress of not being able to live as she used to and the lack of exercise, and there's nothing we can do. Because of this, I often have to take time off work and rely on others to cover my tasks. Yesterday, Kathy had a high fever when we woke up, so I had to take her to the hospital and take the day off. Of course, I feel guilty, but Kathy is my top priority. "I apologize for taking the day off yesterday," I said as soon as I arrived at work. I went to apologize to the manager of my department, Shane Dawson. Shane glanced at me, annoyed, and clicked his tongue. "You say your wife is weak, but I find that hard to believe. You take so many sudden days off every month. Try to think about our situation, too." I've explained to everyone, including Shane, that Kathy is paralyzed and I have to take time off for her care. I made it clear to Shane when I joined this department, but it seems he didn't take it seriously and has forgotten. It's not something I want to keep repeating and the other employees understand, so I don't bring it up. Plus, you leave on the dot every day. It's like you're not taking your job seriously. The reason I leave on time every day is that Kathy is waiting for me at home. Despite being paralyzed, Kathy manages most of the housework. It's thanks to her efforts, but I honestly wish she would take it easy. So I try to spend as much time as possible at home by leaving work on time. Of course, I finish all my work before heading home. The company's policy encourages leaving on time without unnecessary overtime, but Shane doesn't share this view. To him, leaving on time is slacking off. Today, 2 employees are absent, so you'll take over their work.
What? I frowned at Shane, who was smirking.
Our department's tasks are mostly individual work. We are expected to complete the necessary clerical tasks every day, without fail and accurately. Each person handles the daily tasks without fail. Yesterday, 2 colleagues split my workload, so taking on the work of 2 absent employees is nearly impossible. Are there no other employees available? It's a bit much for one person to handle everything alone. Our department's tasks must be completed the same day. They're like daily closing tasks that can't be postponed to the next day. When you take days off, other employees cover for you. Are you saying you won't return the favor? That's just selfish. As long as you finish by midnight, the system has no issues, so you should be able to do it.
Shane seemed determined to make me work overtime.
He's been harsh since I joined the company 7 years ago. Shane is 7 years younger than me. He probably didn't like having an older subordinate. It annoys me that we have a useless old man close to retirement in our department. I can't understand why they hired someone like you. You'd be better suited for a part-time job collecting carts at a supermarket. Shane is always complaining to me like this. Sometimes it's annoying, but there's no other company as flexible as this one. I need the money for Kathy, so I have to endure it. I let out a small sigh. Let me get back to work, I said, and left the scene. I started working, wondering what time I'd be able to go home after finishing the work of 3 people. In the end, I didn't get home until after 10 p.m. I had informed Kathy that I would be late, but I realized I needed to have a serious talk with Shane to prevent this from happening again. When I got home, the living room lights were off. It was too early for Kathy to be asleep, and I felt a sudden sense of dread as sweat began to pour down my body. I hurriedly searched the house but couldn't find Kathy. My mind went blank as I called her cell phone. She couldn't be outside, but if something had happened to her...
The thought made me tremble.
I heard her phone ringing from inside the house and followed the sound to the open door leading to the balcony. There I found Kathy lying unconscious. She didn't respond when I called her name. I immediately called an ambulance, and Kathy was rushed to the hospital. As it turned out, her wheelchair had tipped over on the balcony, and she had lost consciousness without being able to get up. It seems she tried to water the plants on the balcony. I usually did that, but since I told her I'd be late, she decided to do it herself. It was midwinter, and Kathy's life was in danger, lying unconscious on the balcony. I blamed myself harshly for taking on Shane's unreasonable work. To stay with Kathy, who was hospitalized for observation, I took the next day off work. When I returned to work, I would have to explain everything to Shane again and make it clear that I couldn't work overtime. Kathy was discharged on Saturday. The test showed no issues, and I breathed a sigh of relief. Please don't overdo it anymore. I've gone out on the balcony before. This time, I just happened to fall. Kathy seemed exasperated as I kept bringing up the incident, but the sight of her collapse had been so shocking that it felt like it took years off my life. While pushing her wheelchair near our home, I saw a familiar face approaching.
Hey, Robert, is that you?
I forced a smile and nodded to the last person I wanted to see. I was worried he might say something about me taking a day off. If that happened, Kathy might feel uncomfortable, and that was my only concern. You took another day off yesterday. How much more trouble are you going to cause the company?
I'm sorry, but I had a reason. I'll explain everything on Monday. I couldn't explain Kathy's situation to Shane here and now.
Honestly, I just wanted him to disappear from Kathy's sight as soon as possible. But my hopes were in vain as Shane smirked at Kathy in her wheelchair.
Is that your wife? Both of you are defective. What?
Kathy, who had been in a daze, seemed shocked by these words. I was also stunned by Shane's remark, which was much worse than I had anticipated.
I remember. Your wife can't move her lower body, right? How can you live with a woman like that?
Shane's words were utterly insensitive and showed no concern for Kathy. He didn't know how she ended up like this, and he shouldn't be saying such things. How can you say something so cruel? My wife was injured protecting our grandson and became paralyzed. I'm incredibly proud of her. That's just pity talk. Deep down, you hate taking care of a defective person, don't you? If my wife ended up like that, I'd divorce her without hesitation. Seeing Shane look at Kathy with disdain made me tremble with rage. Calling someone's wife defective is inhuman. Kathy seemed unable to process what was happening. I had never told her about the mistreatment I received from Shane at work. Apologize to my wife. I don't care about myself, but I won't tolerate insults to her. What difference does it make if you won't tolerate it? I don't know what connections got you hired, but you're a burden to this company. You take frequent days off, leave on time every day, and can only handle simple clerical tasks. There are plenty of people who can replace you. Shane's words were all true to some extent. I'm a burden to the company, but I didn't deserve to be told off by Shane like this. Don't bother coming in on Monday. I'll tell the president I fired a defective employee. You and your wife are a perfect match, both useless to society. I couldn't take it anymore. I felt the urge to punch him for the first time in my life.
Albert, don't.
Kathy, instantly understanding my thoughts, spoke quietly. Hearing her voice, I felt my anger cool down.
I'm fine. Let's just go home.
Kathy's voice seemed calm, but I could tell she was furious. Shane snorted dismissively.
A defective person acting all high and mighty.
And walked away. He didn't understand the irreversible mistake he had just made. The Monday after Shane's cruel words, I went to work as usual. Even though he had told me not to come, he didn't have the authority to fire me. Why did you bother coming in? You won't be able to work anywhere else, though. I'm heading to the president's office now. You might want to start packing your things. Shane must have thought I was a fool for showing up. He had the same condescending attitude as when I saw him on Saturday. I'm not officially fired. Besides, I expect an apology for the insults to my wife.
What?
Shane frowned at my suddenly confrontational attitude. He might have thought of me as just a punching bag who would take anything. I can handle any insult if it's just directed at me. But it's different when it comes to Kathy. You're getting cocky. An old fool near retirement daring to defy me? Why don't you just move into a nursing home with your wife?
Can you stop insulting my parents?
The one who suddenly entered our office was my son, Tony. Tony was glaring straight at Shane. He must have heard the entire conversation. The other employees, including Shane, stared at Tony in shock.
Tony, what did you just say? I heard you've been saying terrible things about my parents, and you think you can fire my dad? What gives you that authority?
Tony's tone was calm, but I could tell he was angrier than I'd ever seen him. Shane seemed to sense it too as his face turned pale. He must have been utterly shocked that the executive director of this company, Tony Redford, is my son. What's going on here? Why is the executive director's father in our department? No, but this guy joined the company as a mid-career hire, right? It must be a mistake. I'd like to ask, who could mistake their own father? We share the same last name, so it's impossible.
But Shane was trying to laugh it off, avoiding reality. That's nonsense. Do you realize what you've done?
Tony, having reached his limit, yelled at Shane. Tony wasn't the type to get angry, so when he did, it was quite intimidating. Shane immediately fell silent. I heard everything from my father. You've been treating him terribly, haven't you? I'm angry at myself for not noticing, even though we work in the same company. That being said, our company occupies an entire fairly large building. My department is on the second floor, while Tony and the president's offices are on the 14th floor. Moreover, we didn't openly acknowledge our parent-child relationship. Some employees might have noticed due to our shared last name, but we avoided talking to each other at work.
So it's understandable that Tony didn't notice what was happening in my department.
Treating him terribly?
No way! I was just interacting with him normally.
Do you think I wouldn't find out everything once I got involved? My mother told me every detail of what happened on Saturday. Plus, I've reviewed all the footage from the surveillance cameras in this department.
What?
I knew Kathy had called Tony. They were on the phone for quite a while, so I suspected she was discussing the incident with Shane. But I never thought he'd go as far as checking the surveillance footage. Every single insult you directed at my father has been recorded. This means our company can file a harassment claim against you.
File a claim? Isn't that going a bit too far? This seemed to be an unexpected development for Shane.
He probably thought he was just giving a little trouble to a mid-career hire like me. He never imagined it could lead to a lawsuit.
I can't believe I didn't notice for so long. Dad didn't say anything because he didn't want me to worry.
Of course, no father would want to tell his son he's being harassed at work and ask for help.
I would have been happy to help you. Tony shook his head seriously as I said with a smile.
It's because of us that Dad has to work at this company. Tony's expression darkened as he murmured while looking down. By us, he meant Tony, his wife, and their child, Jake. It's my fault that Mom became paralyzed because we left Jake with her. She got into that accident. If I had prioritized my family over work, Tony's strained voice was painful to hear. Kathy became paralyzed after Tony's wife left Jake with her to go to the hair salon. At that time, Tony was often recognized for his excellent performance at this company, leading to frequent business trips and accompanying the president on weekends. Later, Tony admitted that he got carried away by being considered for the next president. But it was understandable. This company is quite large with many employees. It's natural to be excited if your name comes up as a candidate for the next president. The problem was that Jake had just been born. Tony's wife was in a state of postpartum depression. With Tony coming home late every day and being away on weekends, it was inevitable that his wife would feel overwhelmed. Tony might have taken childcare lightly, knowing that we lived nearby. Seeing his wife struggle, Kathy offered to take care of Jake, which was understandable. If I hadn't been away for work, I could have taken care of Jake. Mom wouldn't have had that accident. No one blamed Tony for Kathy's accident and paralysis. Tony was working hard for his family, and the accident wasn't his fault.
I even took away Dad's important job. Tony, you shouldn't blame yourself so much.
Kathy's accident happened 7 years ago, but Tony still couldn't get over it. So why did he end up working at our company? Wouldn't it have been better to stay at his old job? Shane looked puzzled, tilting his head. Tony narrowed his eyes, not liking that Shane was harassing me. Watch your mouth. My father is a developer who created many pharmaceutical products. He was the head of a famous national university's research lab and has received world-renowned awards. He's even met the President of the United States. What? Shane stared at me in shock. It must have been hard to believe that his mid-career subordinate was such a person. My father has always been exceptional. He graduated from prestigious overseas universities early. It was easier to learn from him than from school teachers, so our house was like a tutoring center on weekends, flocked in by my classmates. I was always proud of my father, who was respected by everyone. I was good at teaching thanks to my parents. Both of them were teachers. So I never attended tutoring centers growing up. Having parents who explained things better than my school teachers naturally made me good at studying. My father started working at the graduate research lab he attended and developed various medicines. He succeeded in developing medicines that were previously thought impossible, leading the pharmaceutical industry. But he was incredibly busy because of it. He often worked weekends and had frequent overseas trips, sometimes spending half the year abroad. But my mother always supported him wholeheartedly, believing that the medicines he created could save many lives in the future. I immersed myself in work. The busiest time was when the kids were in middle and high school, and I put a lot of burden on Kathy. Yet Kathy never complained and kept supporting me. But after my mother's accident and paralysis, my father couldn't continue working as he did. He had to leave the pharmaceutical industry. Though he was missed, there are still many people who need the medicines he creates. I offered to quit my job and take care of my mother, but both of my parents strongly opposed it. Of course, it was only natural that I would take care of Kathy as her husband. Even if the whole world needed my medicine, I had no doubt about quitting my job if Kathy needed me. We had some savings, but building a completely barrier-free house for Kathy had nearly depleted them. It wasn't feasible to live without working. But with Kathy's condition, it was also hard for me to work as a full-time employee. So I decided to sell off my assets. I traded in my beloved sports car for a compact car, sold my watches, jewelry, and anything else of value. Even then, the money would barely last us a year. So I had no choice but to sell my late father's prized antique watches. These were watches he had collected from all over the world, precious mementos filled with his memories. But Tony stopped me just in time from selling them. At that time, I wasn't the executive director yet, but I was highly regarded by the higher-ups. I used that position to plead with the president to hire you. The conditions were that you'd only do easily replaceable clerical work, could take sudden days off without getting fired, would always leave on time, but still receive a full salary. In hindsight, Tony's demands were quite unreasonable. The president was reluctant at first, but Tony's desperation and his indispensability to the company made him agree, reluctantly. Thanks to Tony, I can take care of Kathy while still receiving a proper salary. I'm truly grateful. Please don't say that. I did something unforgivable. Even though Tony still blamed himself, such favorable conditions were unheard of elsewhere. I was genuinely grateful. A few years after I joined the company, Tony was promoted to executive director. As a father, I couldn't be prouder. One of my main reasons for working hard here was so you could have a peaceful time in this department. Yet I had no idea this was happening behind my back. Tony glared at Shane, who had been listening in silence. Shane must have realized how dire the situation was. Harassing my father every day, forcing him to work overtime, and putting my mother in danger. Do you understand how I feel? I want to throw you off this building's roof right now. Tony's face showed he was dead serious, his anger boiling over. I'm sorry. If I'd known he was the executive director's father, I wouldn't have acted like that. I thought he was just a burden, doing simple clerical work. You're the only one who thought that, Shane, said a younger employee from the same department with a voice full of exasperation. Other employees nodded in agreement. Robert's tasks may have been simple clerical work, but his method was anything but ordinary. What do you mean? Shane frowned, puzzled. He was too fast at everything. In clerical work, it's hard to save time, but Robert's quick thinking allowed him to skip some steps, and he never made mistakes. Even we make mistakes a few times a month, but I've never seen Robert make a single one. When I first joined, this department was overwhelmed with work that didn't match its number of employees. Shane hadn't noticed, but a few younger employees were on the verge of collapsing from overwork. If there were 10 steps to a task, I started by verifying whether skipping steps 2, 3, and 4 would still yield the same result. I completed the evaluation of everyone's tasks within a month of joining. We all felt Shane was unnecessary, but Robert was absolutely essential. Frequent absences don't matter when you consider his usual work performance. Tony laughed at the young employee's passionate appeal. You've earned quite the trust, Dad. Tony looked at me with a proud grin. I'm happy they're so fond of me. Of course, you're my dad. Well, since the employees feel this way, I guess Shane is the one who isn't needed in this department. What? Shane was stunned by Tony's clear statement. What do you mean I'm not needed? Exactly what it sounds like. You're fired as of today. I already have the president's approval. Plus, we're pursuing the legal action we discussed earlier. And it seems there have been an unusually high number of resignations in this department. We're contacting those former employees now. If we find out you harassed them, what do you think will happen? As Shane's face turned increasingly pale, it became clear he was involved in the reasons those employees left. In a company with high salaries and good benefits, the only likely reason for leaving would be interpersonal issues. There's no way you could stay in this company after what you've done to my parents. I told the president that if he didn't fire you, I would resign. He agreed to fire you immediately. Tony's way of saying, of course, perfectly embodied the term abuse of power. Even from my perspective, it's better without Shane, so I didn't object. Don't think you can easily find another job. I have no intention of ever forgiving you. Yikes. Tony has always been unstoppable when he's angry. If he's saying this, Shane's future is undoubtedly bleak. Hey, Robert, you're his dad. Do something. This is serious. What can I do? Shane, now completely terrified of Tony, clung to me as a last resort. Why he thought I'd help him in this situation, I'll never know. The one who doesn't belong in this department is you, Shane. I've always thought so. Without you, the work would flow much better. What? Shane's face twisted as I spoke with a smile. I've interacted with many people, but you are by far the most foolish and spiteful. Usually, even the least intelligent people try to improve, and the spiteful ones have some redeeming qualities. But in 7 years of working together, I haven't found a single good trait in you. I'm usually good at finding people's strengths, so this is quite rare. Tony couldn't help but laugh out loud. Other employees chuckled as well. Now, let's all get back to work. We've lost a lot of time. Until we get a new manager, I'll be in charge. So just like usual, the employees nodded and laughed. Got it. As I looked around. All right, I'll get back to work too. Dad, I'll bring Jake over to visit soon. Thanks for everything. Tony delivered a final, stern, get out of this company, to Shane before leaving the office. Shane stood there, too stunned to respond. After that, Shane was immediately fired and started applying to various companies, but was rejected at the application stage every time. Of course, Tony was pulling the strings behind the scenes. He sent an email to our business partners stating, "Do not hire Shane Dawson. Please inform your partners as well." Such an extreme move would typically be unacceptable, but Tony seemed to have significant power in this industry. Being the next president of our company and holding various other influential positions, he had strong connections with politicians and the police. Few companies would dare to oppose Tony. With Tony thoroughly ensuring Shane's exclusion, finding another job would be nearly impossible for him. Unable to secure reemployment, Shane's wife eventually left him. As Tony had mentioned, the former employees who left our department did so because of Shane's harassment. The company is covering all legal fees, and preparations for the lawsuit are underway. Shane will face a substantial compensation claim, an amount he won't be able to pay off in his lifetime. Having lost his job and family, Shane now lives in a cheap apartment juggling multiple part-time jobs. Though he's barely making ends meet now, a hefty compensation claim is imminent. He won't be able to cover it with just part-time work, leading him to debt. But there's a limit to how much he can borrow with part-time income. He's likely to turn to loan sharks, leading his life toward utter ruin. As for me, today I returned home on time again and spent a peaceful evening with Kathy. Today, salmon was on sale, so I made grilled salmon. You love it, don't you, Kathy? After finishing work on time, I stopped by the local supermarket and cooked dinner. Back when I had my previous job, I couldn't even make a simple dish. But now, I can cook almost anything. Yes, I love grilled salmon, Kathy said with a happy smile. This is the happiest I've ever been. What did you say? Ever since you joined your current company, everything has been wonderful, and I'm truly happy. When she says, since I joined my current company, she means since she became paralyzed. Despite her restricted life, why does she feel happy? You were always so busy with work, never home. Raising the kids was fun, but it was so hectic I hardly remember it. Since I became paralyzed, you've been home every day and we spend weekends together. That makes me so happy. Kathy smiled gently, but I was speechless with surprise. She never complained about my constant business trips, but she must have felt very lonely. She just couldn't say it. Kathy, I'm sorry. I was so focused on myself. You have nothing to apologize for. You're here with me now. The past 7 years have been tough, but I see it as a gift from God, being able to eat the meals you cook and do household chores together. I sometimes wonder if it's okay to be this happy. Everyone's idea of happiness is different. For Kathy, happiness was spending peaceful time with me. I felt very fulfilled these past 7 years too. Let's share this with Tony. Tony might cry. But I wanted to tell him that Kathy and I are truly happy now, so he can stop blaming himself. Thank you for getting out of my way. The SE advised me to think about retiring early after I returned from a customer visit. I consider myself a workaholic, and I had intended to continue working until I reached the official retirement age, so I was shocked to learn of the abrupt layoff. The CO's tears convinced me to accept the early retirement, even though I had previously refused. My coworker Kevin was given my task, but he turned out to be a vile individual who privately denigrated me. It was too late when I discovered who he really was. The time has come for me to retire. Kevin muttered to me, "Good," as everyone gathered to bid me farewell. "Take care of the others," he said, revealing his true nature. Kevin boasted that he would expand the business without me, insulting me by claiming that I was in the way. Last but not least, I introduced myself as Mark Harper, a 56-year-old man. I work for a company that sells and rents out construction equipment. Having hustled as a salesman since I was young, I am known for being a workaholic. I am currently responsible for teaching the younger employees in my capacity as sales manager. However, I've started considering my post-retirement life more lately. I secretly look forward to engrossing myself in discovering new hobbies in retirement after spending so much time at work. However, I was unaware at the time that the company was in danger.
I'll take my leave then.
After saying goodbye to the representative of Jones' company, with whom our organization has had a solid working connection for many years, I departed the office. I arrived today expecting to attend the standard meeting. I was deeply troubled on the inside when the salesperson told me something that I couldn't believe.
It's been a recession for a while now.
I never thought I would hear that. I muttered to myself as I made my way home. As soon as I got back to the office, I was told to go to the CO's office. I knocked on the SE's office door, wondering.
Pardon me. Do you need anything, William?
The SE inside was looking quite serious. I could tell by the look on his face that this was not going to be good news.
Mark, you've been working here for a long time, haven't you? Yes, that's right. You are a workaholic, staying late since your younger days.
Rather than getting right to the subject, William began to reminisce.
Do you remember bringing a sleeping bag because you stayed so late?
Oh, that was foolishness of youth. I now take care to avoid working overtime for my own health. We shared memories of difficult times, fun times, and large-scale undertakings that were successful, but he hadn't merely called to remind me of the good old days. I've known him since we were young, and am familiar with his personality. Although a little shy, he doesn't waste time. I chose to bring up the primary subject myself.
William, did you call me here for another reason? Well, yes.
The CO's face clouded abruptly as he reflected. He looked me in the eyes after clearing his throat.
I hate to say this, but I need to ask you to consider early retiring. What? I had sensed it wasn't good news, but hadn't imagined it would be a layoff. Why is that?
You know as well as I do our workforce is aging. We have had no new graduates for the last 2 years. Apparently, the company was encouraging early retirement for employees of a certain age to rejuvenate the organization. Now that I think about it, a senior colleague from another department had suddenly left some time ago. I never thought he would quit, so he must have been encouraged to retire by the CO. We'll provide a proper severance package. I hate to ask this, but Will you accept the offer? William, I'd prefer to work until the official retirement age if possible. I spoke honestly.
I know you've been a big help to our company all this time, but we can't grow if we don't bring in younger employees.
Even though we're already short-staffed, I'm still useful. Didn't you just say, your eyesight and physical strength are declining. If you suddenly fell ill and had to take leave, it would put us in a tough spot. I was at a loss for words at his remarks. During a casual conversation, I had mentioned to him that my eyesight was worsening and that climbing stairs was becoming difficult. Indeed, health checks have become scary since I hit my 50s. No major illnesses have been found yet, but if I suddenly collapse, it would be a burden to the company.
Can't you pass on your knowledge to the younger employees and consider retiring?
I couldn't just nod and agree easily. However, after more than an hour of discussion, the CO pleaded with tears, and I finally accepted early retirement. Then he showed a relieved expression with tears in his eyes.
I'm sorry, Mark. I owe you a lot. William?
Even though I said that, my feelings were mixed, but I decided to focus on doing the things I wanted to do after retirement while I still had the energy.
Well, I'll take my leave then. I need to start handing over tasks to my colleagues before my retirement date. Thank you. I'm counting on you.
With that, I left the CEO's office. It might have been the shock of being suddenly fired, but I realized I had reported on my meeting with Jones Company's representative. But I had already left, and I didn't feel like reporting because of the shock.
That's why I'm going to retire at the end of this month.
Having accepted early retirement, I informed my team member Kevin. Kevin, 38, is a salesman in our department. He might have a somewhat frivolous personality, but he uses his agility to secure contracts better than his peers.
Are you really quitting, Mark?
When I told him about my retiring, Kevin was obviously surprised. It's understandable for him to be shocked when his boss suddenly says he's quitting.
Yeah, due to some circumstances. That's a shame.
Kevin looked downcast, but he quickly lifted his face and stood tall.
But even if you leave, you'll always be a great senior to me. It's nice of you to say that. Let's start the handover process then. Yes.
I tried to pass on the experience and knowledge I had accumulated to Kevin. While creating a manual, I taught him the job details. So at this company, after confirming by phone,
Mark?
While we were doing the handover on the computer, Kevin furrowed his brow and spoke up.
Yes, what is it? You're a bit close.
I hadn't realized until Kevin pointed it out. Trying to see the computer screen, I had leaned forward, and my body was pressing against Kevin, who was sitting. The moment I realized, I hurriedly backed away.
Ooh, sorry. My eyesight has gotten worse recently, and I'm having trouble seeing the text.
Presbyopia, huh?
I guess you're at that age, Mark. Kevin said it casually, but words like presbyopia and age stung a bit. You don't have to put it that plainly. It kinda hurts, you know.
Kevin apologized in a light tone, trying to hide his discomfort.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It took several days to complete the handover process. Sometimes Kevin and I clashed in opinions, almost ruining the manual creation, but my retirement date was drawing near. Kevin often unintentionally steps on people's toes, but is straightforward with his words. I believed he would manage the work even after I was gone. But one day, I stopped by the break room to get some coffee. However, what I heard from the break room was a conversation between a female employee and Kevin.
Man, I was really shocked to hear that Mark is quitting.
Realizing they were talking about me, I unintentionally hid and eavesdropped.
So I'm doing the handover of his work during my job, but it's really creepy how close he gets. I almost blurted out, "What?" I had no idea he thought that way when we were working. The guy's an old man, can barely read the print. It's good he's quitting early.
I was stunned by his words. Kevin was bad-mouthing me. He's always acting all high and mighty, so it's refreshing that he's leaving. Thanks to that, I'm the next sales manager. I came to drink coffee, but after hearing Kevin's conversation, I quickly left the spot. Even back at my desk, his words lingered in my mind. As I sat brooding alone, Kevin came back.
Huh? Mark, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?
Kevin looked concerned as he tried to peer at me, but I hastily shook my head.
No, I was just nodding off a bit. Is that so? Well, I'm relieved it's not your health issue.
Kevin seemed friendly, but he had just spoken ill of me. His act was so natural that I realized he must have been looking down on me behind my back all along. I wished I hadn't found that out. Despite the awkward atmosphere, I managed to finish my remaining work. I completed the handover to Kevin, and finally my retirement day arrived. I'm sad, Mark.
I wish you could have stayed at this company longer, Kevin said with tears at the corner of his eyes. However, knowing his true feelings, I saw right through his fake tears. Mark, you've been a great help since I joined the company. I'll keep rooting for you.
Wiping his fake tears, Kevin showed a bright smile. Then the employees gave me a bouquet, and I prepared to leave the company immediately. Kevin and the others followed me.
We'll see you out to the front of the company.
If I hadn't heard the conversation in the break room, I would have believed he was a thoughtful and good man. But I couldn't see him in the same light anymore. Despite my mixed feelings, since it was my retirement day after all, I decided to walk out with Kevin and the others.
Wow, I was surprised when I heard you were retiring, but it really is sad. As we walked, he initiated the conversation.
Just thinking about you not being here makes me wonder if I can really handle it.
He sounded genuinely sad, but I couldn't quite respond properly. You'll be fine.
No, I'm not the man Mark is. I'm anxious about whether I can handle it. Then we reached the front entrance where the employees lined up to see me off. Kevin stepped forward as the representative. His eyes were very moist. This being the last time, I really have nothing but thanks for Mark. Kevin tried to express his gratitude, but choked up. However, I'd long realized it was a lie. Intending a small revenge, I whispered in his ear.
Kevin, you don't have to act. You're relieved I'm leaving, aren't you?
I said softly, and Kevin showed his surprised look, but quickly grinned.
So you noticed, right? It's only recently that I found out you didn't think highly of me.
Perhaps thinking there was no longer any need to pretend, Kevin looked at me with a smirk.
Have you been looking down on me behind my back all this time?
Don't say it like I've been looking down on you. Everyone has someone they dislike, right? In a roundabout way, he called me someone he dislikes. Feeling betrayed by someone I considered a valuable team member, anger welled up within me.
I thought you were just a light-hearted guy, but I actually valued you.
That was your misjudgment, Mark. You really aren't great at reading people, are you? Because we were whispering, the employees behind us were looking at us with puzzled expressions.
Well, I did owe you for some things, Mark. But with that, he winked at me, I'm thankful you're out of the way.
I never wanted to discover that my own younger colleague looked down on me. But here, Kevin himself revealed his true colors. It's a harsh reality, but I have to accept it.
So could you leave quickly? I'm the sales manager starting today, and I'm busy. He waved his hand dismissively as if to hurry me along.
Rest assured, I'll fulfill the duties, Mark. Please enjoy the rest of your leisurely life. Isn't that sweet?
Kevin, better than you who can barely see the computer screen anymore, right?
Continuing this conversation seemed likely to push my stress levels over the edge. Would I really be defeated in my final moments here and just leave the company this way?
Whatever troubles arise, we'll overcome them with our capabilities, so don't worry.
Kevin gestured to the employees behind him and puffed out his chest. That's when I remembered what the representative from Jones' company had told me.
Are you really sure you can manage without me?
Yes, I'll use what Mark taught me to further boost our company, Kevin said. Right, everyone? Trying to get agreement from the other employees, they, oblivious to everything, gave me a thumbs up saying, "Leave it to us. Then there's no need for me to help you out, no matter what happens."
And yes. At his response, I smiled slightly. Good. Then I'll leave it all to you.
Yes. Satisfied with Kevin's assertive response, I nodded. Before leaving the company, I had one more thing to say to them.
Watch out for Jones' company. They're going bankrupt soon. What?
I bowed my head to Kevin and the others one last time and left the company. As I stepped outside and looked back, the employees were standing there, pale-faced. When I had visited Jones' company before, their representative told me he was changing jobs, and while he was at it, he secretly told me this. Jones' company and our company were founded around the same time. We had built a deep trust through transactions that were mutually beneficial. That also meant we were heavily dependent on each other. In fact, Jones' company had been struggling financially for years and was late on its promissory note payments. Things had gone too far, leading them into operational difficulties. The representative had found a new job before the bankruptcy. If our main partner goes bankrupt, our company might follow suit. Kevin and the others should know how crucial Jones' company is to us. That's why the bankruptcy should have raised an alarm for us as well. But Kevin had boasted that he could manage without me.
What will happen next? Even I don't know. That evening, as I was at home, Kevin called me.
"What's the matter, Kevin? Missing me already?" I said leisurely.
On the other end of the line, he sounded panicked. Never mind that. Why didn't you tell us? Tell you what?
That Jones company is going bankrupt. Right after you left, we got a call from them. It seems the deal was completely cut off. Why didn't you tell us earlier? I thought the boss knew about it. Besides, I was too busy with your handover work to deal with anything else.
Kevin clicked his tongue and sighed heavily. Our boss is really shaken up. Well, you just have to find a new business partner. It should be a piece of cake for a salesman like you, right? When I said that to provoke him, Kevin sounded annoyed.
Huh? Is this some kind of harassment? Because it's really annoying. I wonder why, when someone I dislike is in a bad mood, it feels rather refreshing. I self-deprecatingly thought that I might have a rather nice personality. Harassment? That's not my intention at all. Whatever happens, you can handle, Kevin. Damn! Just because you quit doesn't mean you get to act all high and mighty. He was cursing on the other end of the phone. While he was talking to me, he was probably busy looking for a new business partner. Is the purpose of this call just to complain to me? If you have time for this, go find it on your own. With that, I ended the call. I've quit, so whatever happens to the company isn't my concern anymore. Whether they find a new partner and survive or go down together, it no longer involves me. I have my own things to do and won't be dealing with them anymore. That's what I thought. But a month later, Kevin contacted me again. It was on my home phone, so I accidentally picked it up. Yes, this is Mark. Mark? That voice, is that you, Kevin? I'm not free right now. What do you want? As soon as I realized it was Kevin on the line, I almost hung up. However, his next words made me pause. Mark, can you come back to the company? What? Things are tough at the company right now after I retired, especially the sales department. They've been working frantically every day. Kevin and the others need to find new clients and sell or rent out construction equipment, but it seems they are not doing well. That's right. The company always had a habit of buying too much construction equipment. It always ended up with too much stock, making it hard to sell. That's exactly it. The other guys are unreliable, and our CEO is no help.
Kevin blaming others made me annoyed. Hey, what about you? What are you doing about it? Me? I'm working harder than anyone. If I'm assertive, they'll listen to me. Saying that, Kevin was back to his usual bragging. Then why are you calling me?
Like I said earlier, the guys in sales are useless and nobody's making any deals. That's why we need your help, Mark.
What? I couldn't believe his words. When I was leaving the company, he had cursed me as a nuisance. And now he was asking for my help? Come back to the company.
You must be joking. You could easily land contracts, couldn't you? You were the sales manager after all. Despite looking down on me, he quickly turns to me when in trouble. I had no intention of helping Kevin.
I've already quit. It's up to you guys to combine your efforts and do your best. So long. What? Really?
Kevin was still ranting, but I ignored him and hung up the phone. Kevin, who had relied on me, was stunned. He continued to work in sales, but it was hard to find good trading partners. With Jane's company gone bankrupt, his company was not making profits and was on the brink of a financial crisis. Although Kevin was shaken by the situation, it was the CEO who showed the most panic. In addition to the sales slump, there was also a shortage of staff. The CEO had been trying to revitalize the organization by soliciting early retirements from older employees. At that time, the bankruptcy of a major client turned the staff reduction strategy into a curse, resulting in the loss of experienced veteran employees. This led to an even more critical situation for the company. Kevin tried to outperform other employees in this situation, desperately continuing sales efforts. However, in his eagerness, he resorted to aggressive solicitation and attempted to steal clients by criticizing other companies. As a result, he earned disapproval from peers and was ostracized by the industry as a whole. A few months later, the company's debts exceeded $150 million. Originally, the company had grown significantly and was respected in the industry. But now, they lived in fear of defaulting on their payments. If a second bounce check occurred, bankruptcy was inevitable. One day, after I had submitted a business registration form to the tax office, I bumped into Kevin on the street.
Oh, Kevin? Mark.
He was apparently on an outside call carrying paper bags full of documents and catalogs in both hands. You've lost a lot of weight. Those dark circles under your eyes are terrible. I unintentionally muttered that seeing him in person. Salesman Kevin always cared about his appearance and was always neatly dressed. However, the man in front of me looked worn out, the very picture of a corporate drone. The bosses ordered me to work overtime until I meet the quota. Apparently, the company was still not showing any signs of improvement. Despite being taken aback by Kevin's changed demeanor, I felt no sympathy. Well, isn't this situation kind of self-inflicted? It's karma for looking down on me. You could be a little kinder. You know, I'm doing my best here. Kevin glared at me resentfully. This whole mess, it's all your fault. Don't say such awful things. Weren't you happy when you heard I was leaving? Our glaring match continued. Realizing this was going nowhere, I decided to end the conversation and leave. Sorry to bother you when you're busy. Good luck with your sales. I tried to leave without making eye contact with Kevin, but suddenly he grabbed my arm from behind. Hey, let me go. Just come with me. Please. Kevin's grip on my arm tightened. Despite repeatedly telling him to let go, he wouldn't listen and forcefully dragged me along. Hey, Kevin, where are you taking me? His forceful pulling really got on my nerves. Seriously, you haven't changed one bit with your forceful attitude. I threw some sarcasm at him as he silently tried to take me somewhere, but he hardly reacted. The place Kevin brought me to was the office. What? You brought me to the office? And what do you want? Kevin ignored my words and called out to the sales department employees. I've brought Mark back. The employees, like Kevin, had severe dark circles under their eyes, clearly showing their lack of sleep. The atmosphere in the office was more dismal than when I was there. Everyone's desks were buried under piles of documents, and the potted plants in the corner were covered in dust. They were so caught up in their own work that they couldn't attend to anything else. As soon as the employees saw my face, their expressions brightened up. It was as if they had seen a savior. They all crowded around me. "We've been waiting for you, Mark. We can't get any work done without you." It seemed they all believed I had returned on my own and were overly relieved. But I was just forcibly brought here by Kevin. Wait a minute. I never said I was coming back to work. I stepped back from the circle of employees. "What?" But Kevin said, one employee said, turned to look at Kevin. "Kevin, what did you say?" He looked uncomfortable. "I may have told everyone that I would convince Mark to come back." No one. They were all so happy to see me. He must have brought me here intending to depend on me making a declaration in his own favor. I couldn't hold back my irritation at such a selfish man. Don't make decisions without listening to others. I never once thought I want to come back here. I might have been a bit harsh, but I thought it necessary to make my position clear. But look at this situation. Since the company collapsed, our sales have not increased and complaints from customers have risen. Kevin retorted, and the employees nodded in agreement with him. What kind of complaints? While I was here, we had handled complaints, but now they were getting twice as many. Mostly, it was about rental equipment being defective or the appalling behavior of the staff during outside sales. Selling defective products. Of course you're going to get complaints. But seriously, we need to reduce the stock. It's critical. Please, Mark, help us find a solution. I refuse. I'm going home. I'd had enough of Kevin, who relies on others, and the employees who agree with him. They seem to be relying on others, but in reality, they just wanted to give up on their own work. I owed them no loyalty. Ignoring Kevin and the others who tried to stop me, I attempted to leave the office. At that moment, I ran into William, the CEO, in the corridor. "Mark, you came because you knew we were in trouble." William approached me happily as soon as he saw me. "That's not the case. I'm leaving now." Kevin chased after me into the corridor. "William, please convince Mark. He's being very stubborn and I'm struggling here." Not only Kevin, but now the CEO was trying to hold me back, pushing my frustration to its limit. "If you come back, I'll cancel your resignation. I might even consider a raise if you return." "What? So if Mark comes back, what happens to me? Will Mark be the sales manager again?" "That would be the case. If Mark decides right now, I'll even consider a higher position for him." "What?" "That's unfair." As I remained silent, Kevin and William started arguing. They were both supposed to be persuading me to stay, but they were too caught up in their own issues to see the bigger picture. Most of these complaints are because of Kevin. I received calls saying an employee named Kevin forcibly entered our office. "I was just selling at the address you gave me. I didn't order you to make the clients uncomfortable. Don't embarrass me." Fed up with the noisy argument happening right in front of me, I was completely disgusted. I decided to leave without saying a word. As I opened the front door of the office, I ran into a group of unfamiliar people outside. Before I could say, "Excuse me," they asked, "Where's the CEO?" "The CEO is right there," I replied, pointing behind me to William, and they rushed towards him. "Yikes!" Upon seeing the group that had come from outside, William stepped back and became extremely agitated. It seems he must have been quite reluctant to meet them, given how upset he got. Then the group confronted him, demanding, "You're overdue on the payment deadline. Pay back the money you borrowed immediately." Hearing this, I quickly realized they were creditors. It seems William, troubled by cash flow issues, had been borrowing money from everywhere. Still surrounded by creditors, he fumbled for words and became flustered. "At least tell us when you will pay," they pressed, causing him to shrink even more. "Hey, Kevin, do something." "Me? I can't say anything about this." Suddenly thrust into the spotlight, Kevin showed signs of panic, faced with the fierce looks of the creditors. He couldn't respond and hid behind William. It was a pitiful sight. "We'll provide an explanation later. So please, could you leave for today?" William begged in a subdued tone, trying to send the creditors away. However, perhaps because the payment was already delayed, they were not easily appeased and their anger peaked. It's abrupt to expect explanations now. If you saw our situation, you'd understand. We're desperate to sell our products. Without fulfilling his duty to explain, William only offered excuses. Kevin, behind him, nodded in agreement, but such superficial words were unlikely to satisfy the creditors. As time went by, it became clear, seeing William stalling, I realized he was just trying to buy time until they left. William, stalling like this isn't good. Mark, quiet, he said, putting his finger to his lips, signaling me to keep silent. Realizing the excuses were just a way to stall, the creditors raised their voices in protest even more. Kevin and William, overwhelmed by the situation, looked like they were about to cry. So, we will schedule a time for the explanation. Please leave for today. Please, Mark, help us out here. After witnessing their desperate faces, I left the office. Afterwards, I blocked their numbers to ensure they never contacted me again, severing all ties completely. The creditors strongly criticized William for not fulfilling his explanatory duties, accusing him of dishonesty. The company was isolated from peers in the industry due to its unstable response following Jones' company's bankruptcy. As the company's credibility plummeted, a second bounce check was issued, leading to a de facto bankruptcy. Employees struggled to find new jobs, stigmatized by the dishonor of having worked at such a company. Kevin managed to find another job, but being from a bankrupt company, he was treated like a harbinger of bad luck. Moreover, his notorious sales tactics from his previous job were discussed in reviews, and nobody trusted him. This led to even more isolation and backbiting at his new workplace. Despite having badmouthed me behind my back, he couldn't handle being spoken ill of himself and ended up taking unauthorized leave in shock. Kevin quit his new job after just 3 days and now lives off part-time jobs while frequenting the job center. Amidst this, he heard I had started my own business and called me. Can I work for you? Even as a part-timer, Mark? Well, what should I do? When he called me, I was about to hang up immediately. But since I had heard from another employee that he couldn't fit in at his new job and had quit, I decided to listen to what he had to say. His voice on the phone lacked its usual briskness, and he sounded desperate. I'll do anything you ask. I promise to work hard. Please. I responded to his plea immediately. No, you're a nuisance. I don't need you. Oh no, Kevin said the same thing to me before. I'm glad you're out of the way. Why would I hire someone like you? All I could hear from the phone was Kevin breathing. He was probably searching for words to convince me. But I wasn't going to wait leisurely. Hopefully you find another job soon. Goodbye. Wait, Mark, I'm sorry. So, before he could finish his sentence, I ended the call. I run a small cafe in an upscale neighborhood. Having worked nonstop until now, I had longed for a job where I could brew coffee in a relaxed atmosphere. Most of my customers are couples who have finished raising their kids and have time to spare. With 2 or 3 pairs visiting daily, as I listen to their stories and brew coffee, I savor these moments of modest happiness.